It is my distinct privilege now to introduce our keynote speaker, Julie Mohr. You probably know her from her many speaking engagements and international conferences such as Support World Live this week, as well as, Service Management World this week, as well as Support World Live, as well as attending HDI classes for which Julie is an outstanding HDI instructor. And some of you are privileged to have worked with her as she has delivered expert consulting for your organizations. Julie is a dynamic, engaging change agent who brings authenticity, integrity, and passion to practitioners worldwide through her books, articles, speaking, consulting, and teaching. Her purpose is to spark change in the world with thought-provoking dialogue and interaction. Julie has a Bachelor of Science degree in computer science from the Ohio State University. Pardon me?
The
Ohio State University.
That's right, the Ohio State.
The Ohio State University, thank you. And a Master of Arts in Education from the University of Phoenix. And she is currently pursuing a PhD in Management and Organizational Leadership in Information Systems and Technology from the University of Phoenix. She is an ITIL expert, certified help desk director, and certified governance IT professional. Julie specializes in topics of authentic leadership, business strategy, knowledge management, organization culture, and innovation. So I would like to extend a hearty, warm Florida welcome to Julie Mohr. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Take it away, Jules.
All right, I am going to share my screen now. Hold on just a second. Okay, it's telling me I can't share mine till you stop sharing yours.
Okay, I stopped the video. Let me, you were stopped. Okay, now it should work.
Okay, excellent. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I am an avid sports fan. I played a ton of sports all my life, and one of my lifelong dreams was to make it to every baseball field. And I was having a really tough time getting to the two baseball complexes in Florida. And you guys worked with the two HDI chapters worked together to get me to come out and speak back to back, but also so that I could go to a baseball game in one location and a baseball game in the other. And I actually finished that back in 2008. So that was kind of a really cool thing that I'd always wanted to do in my life. And I have all the tickets framed from the different baseball parks. So I am always so grateful to both chapters in Florida for that reason, because I would have never been able to accomplish that. So it's always, I always remember that the second you guys contact me and say, hey, can you speak? I'm like, absolutely, I'll do anything for you guys. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about where this topic comes from. I have been spending probably the last, I would say, 2 years focused a little bit more on artificial intelligence, where it crosses over with knowledge management, and in particular KCS, and then also more of the soft skill side. Because what I found when I started tinkering around with artificial intelligence is that it's a lot harder to mimic human behavior in these systems. And so it kind of took me down this path of, you know, we need to invest in skills, and we need to change the way our organization works in order to support the adoption of artificial intelligence, and in particular, that intersection with knowledge management. So this is a brand new presentation. I have never done this one before, so it's kind of makes me happy to bring something new to your guys' chapter. But one of the most key things about knowledge management to me is that it's got to be a catalyst for change for your organization. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why that's necessary. And then I've come up with 5 key steps to helping you create the right knowledge culture in the organization, and then the potential barriers for success. I have a lot of slides, so I'm hoping that some of these are pretty short-lived so I can get through all of them. So let's start with knowledge management as a catalyst of change and disruption. I think it's really important to know where we have been and where we're headed as a society, right? We started off, we harvested plants, vegetables, and we put them on a cart, right? And we took them to town and we sold them. That was our primary economical force within our society. And then around the invention of the cotton gin, we really moved into what we call the industrial economy, where we used machines to produce products that we then took to market and sold. Then we moved into what I like to call the knowledge economy, where our main product now is not produced with machines. It's our knowledge, our skills, our capabilities. And the organizations that have done incredibly well in the knowledge economy have then been able to use that knowledge to completely disrupt long-standing, iconic type of vertical markets. In addition to that, they've also placed the customer at the center of that disruption. So we kind of see this blend depending on where you are in a maturity perspective, whether or not you're still very much invested in the knowledge economy, or whether you've made that a strategic advantage and have been able to disrupt and put your customers at the primary focal point of what your organization does. So one of the most important things to note is that collaboration has really made this disruption possible. It used to be, right, we had a primary operating system, and then along came, I mean, there were 2 of them. I'm a Mac user, so I would prefer to have the iOS symbol up there, but I do recognize the dominance in the workplace of Windows. And then along came Linux. And if you remember, Linux was a product that was developed through open source. And it really changed. I mean, Apple moved from their operating system over to a Linux operating system. And the power of that collaboration really created a significant product, and it completely disrupted the Windows dominance within that market. It used to be from a knowledge perspective, right, that we always went to our subject matter experts. They were deemed to be the most knowledgeable about a topic. It's kind of like the encyclopedia set, right? These things were built or created or written from the greatest minds. They got together, they produced this series of books, they published it, people put it on their I think Jim has probably about 5 or 6 versions on his bookshelves behind him, right? We all kind of had these books, but the second they're printed, they're out of date. And I mean, if you went and pulled out the A, and you looked up Africa, if you had these printed 3 decades ago, it's going to look very different than what's presented in the book. So we kind of realized that creating knowledge from subject matter experts kind of limited our ability to represent current events, but also there's a lot more knowledge out there than just what's in the minds of our experts. So along came Wikipedia, and I remember when Wikipedia first came out, oh, this is never going to work. How can you possibly create an encyclopedia from the general population? And there's all the checks and balances, but Wikipedia is up to date all the time. New knowledge comes out. There's an effort to always make sure that that is then represented in Wikipedia. And when you search for something and you type what is, or you're asking a question about some particular fact in history, Wikipedia is almost always going to be your first, maybe your second source in that list. So it's really disrupted the way that we view knowledge management as well. And then we have crowdfunding, right? It used to be you had to go to your bank. That was the only place that you could get a loan. You got your credit cards. And now we have this massive amount of crowdfunding happening. Every time there's an event that occurs and there's a tragedy, somebody will put up a GoFundMe page, right? And the community will come together to help that person in need. A lot of charity is driven this way. I know that I was subject to clickbait. I was on Facebook, I will admit it. I saw this it looked like a totally comfortable pair of shoes. I'm thinking that'd be great to travel on. And I clicked on it and it was actually a crowdfunding page. We haven't made these shoes yet, but if you put a little bit of money in, we'll make sure you get, some of the first ones that are produced. And so we see this alternative way. It's really a collaborative way to fund things is disrupting our financial institutions. Now, there's been some clear winners in this knowledge economy, and I'm certain that none of these names are going to shock any of you, to see what they've been able to do because they focused on knowledge first and profits second. Of course, the first one that I would kind of point to is Google. Google did a fantastic job of making their products and services incredibly easy to use. Their search engine, one box, all that crowded page with oversaturation of information where you couldn't find anything, gone. Just one box. What's your question? They gave away Gmail accounts for free. They made it a privilege at the beginning, right? If you had a friend that recommended you, you could get an account. So everybody wanted an account, and then it's like free storage. They did a great job of bringing customers in while behind the scenes, their primary motivation was really to capture information about people. Now, of course, some of these companies that we see up here have also had some legal issues with how they're using that information. But for the most part, their profits have been completely driven by this ability to understand their customers in ways that we can only imagine that we have the information to understand. And their profits are significant. I mean, those four companies, by the way, this is not my stuff. It's something called GAFA economics. That those four companies, their GDP ranking is higher than some countries, and their growth exceeds China. And I mean, this is a phenomenal ability to really capture a vertical market. Now, all of that requires big data. And we're talking about a lot of different sources of information, right? A volume of data, a variety of different data across multiple different touch points, and then the ability to take that information and make quick decisions, the velocity of that decision making. And this is what has driven their competitiveness in the IT market space. So what does this mean to us? I see this as just this fantastic opportunity for everyone to really say to your organization who may not have a knowledge management strategy as the core focus of what we do, you guys are all the agents of change. You're the ones that are at the center of making the changes that are going to be necessary to make knowledge management a transformation. But we also have to change our own way of thinking, right? We still are holding on to this idea that we have to go to our subject matter experts for a resolution because they're the only ones that have the best answer. We have to value everyone's contribution. And we have to get excited about knowledge management transformation. When was the last time you went into work and was like really excited about what you were doing? I know that especially in the repetitive environment where we kind of focus our membership, it can be quite challenging to stay passionate and excited about what we do because it's just this churn every day. It's the same old thing. Well, if we focus our emphasis on knowledge management collectively as an organization across IT and the business, we have the ability to create that transformation. But it starts with our own belief system, what we think about knowledge management and what we want to create through knowledge management. And people that are passionate about work are amazing forces. I forget where this comes from. I accidentally deleted the source for this last night. So if anybody wants this, I think it was lifehack.org. But they did a study about what makes passionate people in the work environment and in the world so successful. First of all, they're problem solvers. They're willing to take on a problem and solve it. They're unconditional givers. They're humble. They make powerful decisions. They're willing to take that risk to move forward, to create change. They follow their hearts. If you believe in something with a great deal of passion, you're going to stick around to make sure that that transformation occurs. They see the big picture. They're positive. They're visionaries. They take action. They don't wait for some magical point in time where all of the stars are in alignment. I mean, they've got force. They actually move the stars, right? That's how passionate they are about what they do. And they're not afraid to fail. And they view every opportunity as a learning opportunity. If you can change the way that you feel about your environment and become passionate about transformation, knowledge management is a key strategy that can help you make that happen. So this is an opportunity for all of you, even if you're doing knowledge management today, to take it to that next level. How can we better manage our knowledge resources to disrupt the way that our organization works, disrupt the way that the vertical market works, and be leaders in our industry? Now, one of the most important things that drives people's passion in the work environment is that work is worth doing, right? I love this quote. I have no idea where it came from. I used to know many years ago, like 5 years ago in January of this year. People do not commit to project plans. And in fact, if you've ever had to manage a project with a project plan, it becomes the most mundane, task-oriented process ever. But they do commit to causes. And when you can create a cause around transformation through knowledge management, people will get excited. That cause has to be something that's transparent, something worth doing that's going to help to transform the organization. This is your opportunity to create work worth doing. All right, so how do we get there? Let's go through the 5 steps to create a successful knowledge culture. The first one is getting everyone on board across your organization that knowledge is our core strategy, not something we do in addition to everything else we do. Remember, the companies that absolutely have transformed focused on knowledge first, profit second. So we have to develop strategies where knowledge is our core focus. Then incident management gets better, problem management gets better, all these other things, customer experience get better because we have the knowledge to create that transformation. Once we have that as our core strategy, then we want to do innovation and continuous improvement by using that knowledge as our guide. This also requires us to change the belief system of our knowledge workers. And I think if anything that has proven to us over the last year of people's belief systems is how hard it is to change them. If we just look at the polar opposites of our political parties, right? You can talk to your blue in the face to somebody who's on the other side of the fence and they're not listening. They have their own view of the world. And it's the same thing with knowledge workers. We have our value system, what we wake up every day of our career thinking that is valued about us. And we're changing that dynamic. We're essentially flipping it upside down. So if we don't address this, we're not going to get the people to buy in to knowledge management. And that's an important part of your success. We'll go through some characteristics of an effective knowledge culture and then the collaboration. Remember, 2 things that I pointed out at the beginning of this presentation. You need knowledge and you absolutely have to have collaboration to make this transformation possible. So let's start with knowledge management as your core strategy. Our culture needs to focus on what do we value? What are our belief systems? What is the normal way that we work? and begin to change our focus from how can we work smarter, not harder? And that's everything across the board. It's our processes, it's our tools, it's our society norms. All of these things have to be addressed in order to create that strategic focus. Otherwise, it's just a plan. We need a cause, right? Remember, and absolutely everyone needs to participate in developing this strategic focus on knowledge management. So if we can create a strategic initiative across the board, where I'm talking every business unit, knowledge is at the core of everything that we're trying to do for the next 2 years, 5 years, can't do it without knowledge management. That gives us an established foundation across the organization. Everybody has in their sights that this is the most important thing that we're doing. If we can do this, we can achieve so many other of our objectives, reducing costs, potentially innovating and providing services that we don't have the funds or the resources to do now. We have to do this. We can't wait any longer. If we don't have a really solid, strong knowledge management strategy, we're going to be left behind, because a lot of companies are doing this, they're successful, and you see what happens. When was the last time you went to Borders? A very big company that a lot of people loved going to Borders, gone because they couldn't change their business model and adapt to something as large as Amazon. So we see lots of organizations that kind of, Blockbusters is another one, you know, Netflix, what's that, right? You know, welcome to the real world. We've got to stay focused on knowledge as a strategy to understand how to innovate and develop services that are meaningful to our customers. So the strategic key asset needs to be knowledge management across the business as well as IT. Now, as you go forward with creating transformation, it really starts with your program team. This can't be a couple people at the service desk deciding that they want to answer calls faster and push knowledge to our customers. We need cross-functional representation, business and IT, getting together along with our customers to understand why knowledge management is important and how are we going to create this future vision for our organization. It requires executive commitment. Leadership and managers have got to be omnipresent and be engaged in what's going on, helping to eliminate the barriers that can be significant as you move forward. So if we place knowledge management as our core competency for success, and we get executives to buy in, that means looking at everything we do. That means our compensation, our metrics, looking at cost models that now, instead of being focused on transactions, are focused on innovation and continuous improvement through knowledge management. That's when you know this is an investment across the organization. You are getting buy-in that knowledge is what we all need to focus on, and it translates not just from the vision, but all the way through to procedures, processes, performance evaluations, metrics. Everything has got knowledge management as a core focus. Then you can use that as your guiding factor, right? This is what will help the organization to stay focused on what's really important. And if you can do that for just a couple years, getting the company to really focus on knowledge management and get the resources you need, you can significantly transform the way your organization works. Now, step 2, once we have this knowledge management strategy, how do we do the innovation and continuous improvement side of that? Well, the value of knowledge is significant, not only in IT, but for the business. But let's think about it from an IT perspective. Being able to resolve things faster and eliminate errors from the environment is a significant value add. You know, when we talk about 80% of the problems or issues that we face in the environment is really from 20% of the infrastructure that is unreliable. If we can reduce that in half, imagine the impact on incident management. And this has been a promise for a long time. Put problem management in place, get rid of these things before they occur. All of this stuff is hard to do because we don't have the knowledge that helps to support identifying with greater confidence what the root cause is so that we can eliminate these things. So greater knowledge management means better problem management, faster resolution, and incident management. It also means as we go through change and we're bringing new technologies into the environment, we're going to be able to do this much smoother with less downtime, fewer impacts from a change management perspective. You do those three things, you focus on the three big: incident, problem, and change, you're going to have a much better relationship with your customers, right? And that's ultimately why we're here, to empower them to do the work that they do. So the value for knowledge management is significant within our processes within a service management adoption. But we have to take that to the next level. When we begin gathering information across all of our touch points with our customers, and this could be knowledge that comes in through phone calls, it could be knowledge that we're capturing through monitoring systems, through our self-service portals, through devices that are more smart about what we're trying to track, right? I mean, who doesn't have one of these days where they're tracking all kinds of information about you and sharing it with all these app providers that are on your phone, and then they're able to use that information to drive innovation and change. So if we look at all the touch points that we have with our customers and begin strategically focusing on what knowledge do we need and how can we capture it, and then being able to remember the V's of knowledge management: velocity, volume, veracity. It's very important that we have that data to better understand our customers. When we understand them, more about the type of user they are, what systems they're using, what their capabilities are, we can provide much more adaptive solutions for our end users, as well as personalized experiences. Imagine, I mean, one of the reasons why we are so attached to our telephones is because these are very personal devices. The apps that I have on here help me to be hugely productive or waste time, whatever the case may be, but it's personalized. A lot of times we take personalization out of the work environment. We lock down machines. We don't allow them to have install anything. So it kind of can impact their productivity. But when we can provide better personalized experiences, things that can help our customers to be more productive, we're going to improve the quality of the services that we provide. And of course, that relationship will only get better. So we need to think about knowledge management as a vehicle for digital transformation of our customer experience. Being able to make knowledge-driven customer strategies, right? It's not just, oh, here's the 10 things that were most broken on this service last year. Let's fix those. What about, the 40,000 other things that happened that your customers reported on? We have to be able to look at all of that information and make smart decisions, be proactive in the way that we respond to things, and really drive the transformation across functional groups. And I'm not talking about networking, getting along with client server or the service desk. I'm talking about sales, marketing, research and development, IT. I'm talking about being able to leverage knowledge across IT and the business processes in an effort to really transform that customer experience. So problem management probably is our greatest value add, our quick win through a really good, strong knowledge management strategy, because being able to be proactive, better when we're reactive, and more proactive on the problem management side means that we're going to improve the work that we do. We're a lot less repetitiveness, so we can focus our emphasis on doing the value-added work that today we just don't seem to have enough time to do. Now, we cannot forget the individuals involved in knowledge management. And I don't know about you guys, but going through a job interview and putting your resume out there, you go through this long, lengthy process, you're hired, and you think, wow, they needed me for my skill sets, right? I'm the one that funneled through. And if you turn around and immediately say, oh, you are going to be such a valued member of our team, can you put everything that you know in the knowledge base? It's going to be a little intimidating, because now that dynamic completely switches. You're not valued for what you know, you are valued for what you share. That collaboration is critical to the success of your knowledge management strategy. So what does that mean? We have to build trust again with our employees, right? We need to be committed to developing their competencies so that they are ready and able to manage what happens after knowledge management is that strategic asset. How do we then manage that knowledge? How do we innovate? How do we make these changes? We need people to drive that transformation. It's just what we want them to do is vastly different than what they're doing today. So that takes the organization's commitment to those people driving their competency in the areas that are going to be needed. That means we have to establish mutual interest. This is going to be good for you, not just for the company. And we have to change that belief system for them that they're valued only for what they know. It requires openness and honesty. I mean, yes, could we possibly lose people at level 1? Absolutely. I mean, it wouldn't be a strategy, if we didn't reduce costs in some way, but we're going to need people to do other things that are equally important in that knowledge economy. But the skill sets are going to be vastly different. So we have to be honest and open that yes, people may move across the organization, but if you're committed to giving them the skill sets that they need to make that transformation, then they're going to be more likely to commit to that strategy. And we need to get better at creating collaborative communities of learning across the board, working on bringing people together. I mean, some of the greatest stories that I love about the beginning of the innovation of information technology was how people went out and they studied things that had absolutely nothing to do with IT. And then they brought those concepts and ideas into the user interface. And it's just exciting when we collaborate across functional groups. We have the ability to really begin thinking at problems from a different perspective and begin understanding what's the best solution, not what's a solution to fixing these problems. We also have to foster creativity, right? Think about when you do a job that's pretty mundane day after day, the creativity side of that tends to wane. It's one of the reasons why I have so many DIY projects going on around the house. What I do for a living is very analytical, very thought-driven, and there's not a whole lot of creativity. So I needed an outlet for that. I do the DIY. We need to create a collaborative, creative environment where people are really focused on thinking about things in new ways. Remember, flipping the business model upside down, looking at it from a completely different perspective. This requires us to understand our people, understand their values, encourage creativity. Don't shut it down. When somebody comes to you and they're all infected with this new idea, don't be the bubble popper, right? Where they go, oh, I got a great idea. And you go, that will never work. That will never work, right? That's going to frustrate and people will shut down on the creativity side. So don't be afraid to bend the rules or throw them out completely. Figure out new solutions that really do innovate and provide a value to your customers. Now, you as the manager or leader in your environment have to empower your people to take action. Don't get in the way, get out of their way, right? They need to feel that they're willing and able to create the change. They're part of it and they're accountable for making it happen. That means you're there to inspire, to stretch people's thinking, to be a mentor, and when necessary, to confront when people are unwilling or unable to create that change. We also want to encourage that autonomy. When knowledge workers feel like they are empowered to create change, they're more than likely to be invested in that change in the long run. So let the team drive the change. As far as management is concerned, get out of the way. Instill responsibility and accountability, but just be that empowering factor that eliminates those barriers to their success. So that means providing opportunities for personal growth. And I know I have always been the happiest in my career when my own value system and my own desires for my personal growth aligned really well with whatever company or client that I was working with. That just makes you feel so much better about the work that you're doing. You're developing new skills, you're taking on new opportunities. You can be developing the next greatest set of leaders who are innovative and passionate about change. That's your responsibility. Now, what are the characteristics of an effective knowledge culture? Well, first of all, we need that compelling purpose. We can't pitch this as a tool implementation. We can't pitch this as, once we do this, then we'll move on to something else. This is transformation, and it requires a compelling purpose. Why are we doing this? Remember, people don't commit to project plans. They commit to a purpose. It needs to be more than just operational goals. It can't be enough to increase or a particular KPI or provide higher customer satisfaction. It's got to be a reason to get out of bed every day and get excited about going into work. Focus on long-term value of your knowledge management strategy, right? I'm pretty sure that when Google first established their vision, let's give away all these services for free, they weren't just thinking about having a customer database, right? I mean, they were thinking long-term, what can we use with this information? How can we better provide products and services to our customers? Focus on the long-term value of what that knowledge strategy brings to your organization. But encourage and support the near-term improvements, because one of the things that gets people excited about change is when they begin to see the transformation and can actually understand the value that it's creating. So I recently wrote an article on developing a compelling purpose statement. It's up on the HDI Support World website. So these are the 5 steps. Understand who you are, understand what it's going to take to get where you need to go, develop an understanding of your desired outcome, brainstorm, assemble words, like you just bring in all these words that are meaningful, and then develop your compelling purpose. It should be something that elicits an emotional response. When you say it, you should get goosebumps. That's when you know you're connecting with people emotionally. It shouldn't read like a vision or a mission statement that no one can remember unless you look it up on the website. That's not compelling. It needs to be short, to the point, and elicit that emotional response. You also need to develop a new performance model. It isn't just enough to understand, okay, how is knowledge management impacting our traditional things that we're measuring? You also need to set expectations around job responsibilities and performance aligned with knowledge management. You also want metrics that are focused on people identifying and implementing improvements in the environment, not just the status quo. It's not enough to just keep things humming along. You've got to be able to bring in things that help to innovate the way that we're working, to save costs, all kinds of other things. And then make sure that you're tracking progress. You need to provide, people are going to be taking risks. They're going to be trying things that they've never tried before. If you're pushing them up to that point where they're now taking that risk, you need to be providing feedback, helping them to maintain that focus. If it fails, fail quickly, learn, recover, and try again. Don't put your people in front and say, well, they did this, not me. It's us. We're doing this together. We need to learn, adapt quickly, and try new things. We also want to tie the entire KM practice to the organizational values. I'm working with a healthcare company today, right? Being able to tie what you're doing in knowledge management to better patient care. That's when you know that you're creating a cause, something worth doing. So if your organization has a really strong vision or mission, some sort of an outreach that they're already doing, if you can connect knowledge and how that will help those efforts to be even more successful, you're likely to create an environment where people will buy in and want to be part of this new knowledge management strategy. So you want a performance model that focuses on driving those business results. Don't just focus on the operational metrics and how we're changing and managing costs. It's got to be the long-term value that you're creating for your organization. And when we can tie these things to the organizational goals, collaborate across different business units, we're going to see new working models and new ways of disrupting the way that we provide our current services. You have to be the champion. You have to be passionate about this. Wake up every day. This is what we're going to do. We're going to get there. We're going to work together. Keeping it focused on the long-term success for the organization. Now, the fifth one is collective wisdom through that collaboration. When I say collaboration, I don't just mean IT anymore. That was what we were trying to do over the last decade. Now we have to have this really strong collaboration with the business. We want those targets for what is going to provide value to the business. We have to look inward. There's no doubt that we have to understand how knowledge management can help us transform our organization. But it's not just with the goal of operating more efficiently or providing better self-service. We also need to change our focus to looking out externally. So when we talk about a fully integrated knowledge management practice, it's both IT and the business. Getting together, understanding where are we missing key information to understand the complete experience. How can we best utilize this information that we're capturing? These are all things that are going to be incredibly important if we're going to create success for the business. We have to work with them as you go through your knowledge management adoption or strategic focus. So it's important to also have an organizational structure that focuses everyone on creating, sharing, and using that knowledge effectively. Cross-functional processes where we have an isolated set of pocket or a pocket of information over here, allowing that to be exposed for other people to use to help understand how that has an impact on their area of the business. If we integrate this across all the work that we're doing at all levels, our ability to transform the way that we make strategic decisions will be possible. So we need knowledge or information connection through collaboration. That means collaborative teams. Stop going at problems with an isolated group. Bring in customers, bring in the business. These problems are more likely to be systemic and impacting the business in ways that we don't understand. If we don't ask, we don't know. So we tend to focus our efforts on how do we improve what we're doing when really everything runs on IT. There isn't a business process today that doesn't depend heavily on IT systems. So the thought that we're in our own little silo trying to solve things that we think are important isn't really a great strategy. Being able to focus on, hey, what does this mean to our business? How can we, improve in ways that are going to help the business to be more successful? So collaboration across the organization, not just in IT. And when people invest in that change, when they're part of creating it, it's more likely that they're going to make that happen. So we can change our workforce from passive to being absolutely engaged and passionate about the future by creating this connection with collaborative teams. Now, one of the things that I know just from, working in environments is that we all have our network. You have people that you go to, they have people that they go to whenever they need an answer for something. It's like this invisible organization that exists. It's not formalized, it's all behind the scenes. And we do it today, especially now that we're all remote. This is pretty much happening on our collaborative platforms. You pull up a chat window, hey, I got a quick question for you, right? And then that goes off to somebody and you get an answer maybe a little bit later. And then maybe that triggers another question. You go connect with somebody else, right? These are informal social networks, and they really are the hub of the way that the organization works. So we need to expose those. We need to understand, hey, Who is it that we need to go to at this point in time? Well, if we expose those social networks, we're more likely to get to where we need to go much faster. So formalizing the knowledge sharing during those times where those questions exist, making that information flow a part of people's job, not just, I'm going to be nice and answer this question because you're my friend, or, because you came to me. Next time, put in a ticket. We all do these things where it's kind of like we're friends with somebody, we do them a favor. Well, that is actually really making us all a lot more productive. When we are able to go get these answers, we're in the middle of doing something and it'll be completely stopped unless we have the answer. So if we formalize this and make it a part of the way that we work collaboratively, we're more likely to be successful in this new knowledge management strategy. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up. I'm just going to quickly here. Oh, I'm almost perfect on time. Let's talk about some of these barriers to your success. And the only reason why I mention these is because you've got to understand that no matter how hard you try, if you don't address these barriers, knowledge management as a transformation can be incredibly difficult. First of all, look at your company culture. If your company culture is not ready to make this transformation, or that's not in alignment with what you personally believe, you're going to be smacking your head against the wall. It's going to be a very difficult thing. You have to address the company culture before you can create that change. Another really big barrier is disconnected employees. And I just think what we've been able to do this year is so incredible. We basically stopped, moved our entire operation into a virtual environment and picked up like that. Now, I'm not saying it was easy, but it required a tremendous amount of collaboration between business and IT in ways that we haven't done in the past. We've always been kind of lethargic to create the change. But boy, when someone puts that need out there to create that change and do it now, we rose to the occasion and we made that happen. So, this disconnection of people from that information share, we have to address that. Lack of opportunity. If you've been in a job for a long period of time and it never seems like you're ever going to get, a new opportunity to do something new, it can be very frustrating and it can help to disengage people. More importantly, it can stifle creativity and innovation. So we need to view knowledge management as that opportunity and re-engage our workforce. Another barrier is that lack of empowerment. We have a lot of, top-down management, and it's not that I'm saying throw out all the managers, right? I'd be unemployed. But at the same time, we have to change our perspective of what it means to manage. We really want to empower our people to create this change, not tell them what to do, but inspire that change. Another one is getting that organizational buy-in. I cannot tell you how many knowledge management implementations I've been involved with over the years where the success is dramatically reduced because of the inability of the people driving the strategic change to get buy-in. At some point, information is going to hit one of those parts of the organization where you absolutely need their participation. And if it's a wall, you've immediately hit a barrier that's going to impact the success of a knowledge management strategy. So it's really important that you get the buy-in that you need from all levels, all subject matter experts, business and IT. Trust is one of the most significant dysfunctions of an organization. So don't think you're going to go down this path of knowledge management if you are not hand in hand with establishing trust. Remember, our belief system and what our beliefs are drive our behaviors. So we have to establish trust with our people. So in summary, collaboration's not random, folks. You need to design this and be purposeful. Get that invisible way in which your organization works as that formal way that you collaborate across functional groups. Teams that share knowledge when it's tied to strategy are more likely to be successful. And leadership and management, we need to be accountable to help to drive and create that knowledge management success. So here's my social digits. Feel free to connect with me in any way that you would like. And I will definitely stick around here and answer any questions that you guys might have if I can figure out how to get to the chat window.
Okay, thank you so much, Jules. Let's open it up to any questions that anybody has. You can unmute yourself and ask questions at will.
So Jules, first, this is Joe. I really love the presentation, absolutely. And two of the takeaways that I actually put into my own Teams chat are kind of like questions slash things to think about. One of them you touched at the very end, the barrier. It's what's in it for me, painting the picture of what it's going to look like, but then showing them that this is what we do today, but we can have nirvana. We can have that pie in the sky if folks participate at these different junctures. So I really like that you had that as the one of your barriers, because I wrote that in my chat to the team a little bit ago. So it was just one of those things where that's difficult to do sometimes, is painting that picture. How would you recommend striking that canvas?
So the what's in it for me, the part of the reason why we have challenges doing that is because we're kind of so absorbed in what we do. And I don't know about you, but I worked my way up throughout my career doing support and all those things. You know, it's important never to lose touch with those grassroots of what's going on and how the organization works. I mean, I'm not successful if the rest of the team is not successful. One of the things that I advocate is you know, sitting down with each individual and not even talking about work, but asking them, you know, how's everything going? You know, is there anything that I can do to help? I mean, especially now that we're in this virtual environment, so many people, we already suffer from a lot of depression in the IT work environment. So many people are really hurting and they're hiding it. And, you know, we just need to connect with our people. I know in so many ways, business is meant to extract that personal connection, right? Check your emotion at the door. You know, I broke down on a phone call. I can remember this years ago. They were cutting my pay, and I had just moved to California. I was living in a much more expensive environment, and oh boy, they just dropped my bonuses. And I started crying on a call, and somebody called me afterwards and said, "Julie, you can't cry." I'm like, "What do you mean I can't cry? You hired me because I'm passionate about what I do." Well, that passion goes both ways. You take away my money and my livelihood, you're going to get tears. I mean, we need to remember that we're all human and we're in this empathy overload these days where it's like, I just can't take any more. Guess what? As a manager, you have to connect. You have to know what each individual's belief system is, because trying to go at it across the board with just one strategy, everybody grows up with a different belief system, what they value about their life, about their work environment, about the company that they work for. And you have to address, it's not what's in it for us, it's what's in it for me. You got to get to the individual. So we need to connect, first of all, in meaningful ways with our people. But just remember, Joe, that the what's in it for me is just part of it, right? Once you can connect with your people, you need to help them connect it to that what's in it for us. What does this do for our organization? Because if you can make that meaningful, people will change their belief system. We've seen this over time, where when you're exposed to new things and you see success, we can readjust what our view is of norm. But if you connect and you create commitment, don't worry, I'm going to be here for you. We're through this transition together. I'm going to help you learn the skills that you need to get to be successful in the future. If you make that commitment, you know your people, they will turn their emphasis toward helping to make the organization successful, because it's not risky to them. You're committed to their success just as much as you are to achieving the organization goals.
No, I love it. Yeah, that's a great advice, not just for myself, but for everybody. So I will definitely take that into thought.
Oh, we have time for one more question. We're at 101. Jules, thank you again for that very comprehensive and thought-provoking presentation. There are so many benefits to engagement of employees for a worthy cause, and we know that there are powerful benefits from implementing a strategic knowledge management focus. Based upon all the organizations that you have engaged with and the many friends that you've spoken with, are there a top 2 or 3 challenges to rallying the troops, to embrace the why, if you will, to the commitment to the cause, and how has the pandemic complicated things?
I like to think about us as like in a room with 16 plates that we're kind of spinning on these sticks, right? And we've just got so much that we're working on. And someone comes in the room and says, hey, I have this platter. Can you start spinning it? And you're like, no, I can't do it. You need to leave now. But if you come in and you say, look, I have this, and I'm going to take 4 of your spinning plates away, and I'm going to give you this one, right? That's a completely different dynamic. So that's that what's in it for me, but it's also the getting the buy-in at all levels. When we can convince executives that, hey, knowledge has the potential, and this is proven from the consortium, to free up 20% the capacity of our staff. That is not insignificant, 20% across all levels. And when you think about those gains, the ability to do other projects that you're supposed to be working on, the ability to really engage in meaningful work becomes possible. So I think the biggest thing that I have seen a barrier is buy-in at all levels, and I don't understand it. I don't understand why people cannot look at everything going on in society today and not see all the companies that invested in knowledge, they're up here and the rest are down here, right? The way to transform through knowledge, there are so many examples of companies that have done this. I mean, you look at Uber, you look at Lyft, the way that they transform, the transportation industry. There's just, so many companies that have completely let go of the norm of the way that we do things and transformed and have had just huge levels of success. Think about, again, I go back to Joe because, I know his environment, but think about what healthcare had to do over the last year. They completely transformed from a business-centric brick and mortar. Now I book my appointments online. I talk to my doctor through a video chat. You can see what is possible when we are forced to let go of our norm. Our norm was, this is the way that we've always provided healthcare. Guess what? There's a pandemic going on. What greater cause? Protect our people while we're providing healthcare. And boom, the transformation happened overnight. So when it's possible to get the buy-in, you create this compelling purpose, the transformation is possible. You just need to engage people to make it happen. Because if anything has happened this year, there is proof, Jim, through this pandemic that we are very much capable of turning on a dime when the cause is there. We just have to find that cause. And of course, a lot of this has got to wait because we're like all caused out this year. 2020 is the gift that just keeps on giving. Seriously.
I'm certainly encouraged by the adaptability and the resilience and just the awesome commitment and sacrifice that all of us have made, especially those of us that are in healthcare, frontline workers, essential roles, and it gives me faith that we are going to get through this. And I know that 2021 is going to be a much better year than 2020. This emphasis on mindful leadership and that personalized connection with your your colleagues and staff is so critical to the success of culture change and achieving excellence in this knowledge management area. So thank you so much again, Jules, for this outstanding presentation and for your extremely valuable insights. Thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you a joyous and blessed Thanksgiving holiday and holiday season. And look forward to seeing all of you, hopefully at our January 13th award event. It will be a lot of fun. Have fun, stay safe, God bless.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you,
Yep.
Jules. Bye.
Hi.
Take care.